First of all, let's welcome Tina. She's the moderator of today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Tina, and I will be introducing my organization, Bonjour Girls. We are the nonprofit women organization that aim to power Asian women through meaningful connection. And we founded in 2023 in New York City, and now we have expanded to Canada and Europe. So globally, we have around 10,000 members, including 5,000 members in New York City and 2,000 in Canada and 3,000 in Europe. So our core event are the coffee chat hosted by our member, and we don't have any membership fees, free to join. And so the coffee chat are like any topic our members would like to discuss. Like it can be like industry topic if they want to like move into that industry, like how can they grow. So they will host like a coffee chat, and usually it's like 4 to 6 people, and they can find like a cafe or like lounge, and then they can just meet new friends there. And some other members, they will host like hiking, more outdoor events. So it's like you can like do anything you want in our organization. And also within our organization, we also host official events like panel talk, like conference and workshop, etc. So in like finance, in AI, like in all kinds of like hot topics right now. So if you are interested, feel free to check our website, bonjourgirls.org, and also connect with us on our social media on like Instagram, Redno, like WeChat group, etc. If you are interested in knowing more about Bonjour Girls, please stay at the networking session and connect with me. And thank you. And now I will pass to the next, Dana. Yes.
Hi, everyone. My name is Dana. I am the founder and executive director of H.AAPI. We are a local 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to helping empower the Asian American community through networking and connections. Our goal is to really help people connect from all walks of life, get together, bring fun, accessible, unique events to the community that are also low pressure. When I was growing up, I always felt out of place. I didn't know how to connect, so I created an organization where everyone can get together regardless of how old you are, what race you are. You can come in all casuals, you can come in professional wear, whatever you want. We want our attendees to walk away from our events having either met someone new, for example, meeting a new person, or for a friend, or maybe for personal or business, and also learning something new. So whether you want to learn about candle making or you want to learn how to ski, an example is next month, July 25th, we're having a new workshop where we're going to create candles at a local AAPI-owned creative studio called Studio Sukun. So if you wanted to join, make a candle, bring one home, you can definitely do so. You can, come by, attend our events, and also just volunteer if you're interested. So I'm going to pass it along to the next person.
Thank you, Dana. So hi, everyone. My name is Eric Lam. I'm a junior at Stuyvesant High School. I'm first generation Chinese American, and I'm here to talk to you guys about EcoBiz. So EcoBiz is an organization. It's a fiscally sponsored 501c3 nonprofit that I founded with my best friend, dedicated to educating fellow students, youth about sustainable business, as well as promoting sustainable business practices among small businesses in New York City. And this is something I founded over 2 years ago, but today we've grown to over 300 members. Our resources have reached just actually surpassed 10,000. We mostly operate online. We have a monthly newsletter where we share opportunities related to sustainable business, how youth can get involved. So everything from internships, summer programs, free events happening in New York City, all of that. We are sometimes present at large in-person events, and in fact, in April, we did an event at the largest Earth Day fair, the New York City Earth Day Festival in Union Square, and so where over 100,000 people participated. So we do cool things like that, and also if you're interested in any way sustainable business, I highly encourage you guys to get involved. We're constantly looking to amplify youth voices. So actually in 2 weeks, EcoBiz will be at the United Nations High-Level Political Forum, advocating for some sustainable business, and we actively take opinions, perspectives from youth like you guys, to directly inform like what we say at these like large forums. So that's about EcoBiz. We've partnered with a few other like large organizations, businesses to advance sustainable business. And yeah, super excited to get to know you guys today, and I'll pass it along to the next person.
Hi everyone, I am Huiting, and I am a volunteer leader at Glow for the past 3 years, or 2. And I am also co-leader of Green Team at my high school of economic and finance. For Green Team, it's like a club at my school that was founded to help with like nearby farm, because our school was located down in the financial districts. There weren't like much greenery, and we thought that it was necessary to have like some kind of greenery and also have sustainability efforts around the districts. That's why we had that club. For that club, we do a lot of different things. Mainly, we do Climate Action Day, where we participate with like with the New York City high schools, and also we do like summit at like the Governor's Island, where we all gather together to see different ways to find like new sustainable ways to include into our high school journey. And other than that, I'm also part of Glow. And for Glow, as you can see over here, we do like a lot of different community events. And for recently, we just had Dragon Ball Festival that we just ended, and upcoming we have Fall Festival. And if you're interested in joining Green Team, well, you have to be in high school first, but you can also join through like there is different there's different like local climate groups, and as well as for GCC, you can join our Discord channel and also email for like any upcoming activities and stuff. And yeah, that's a little bit about me and Green Team and GCC, and I'll pass it on to the next person.
Hi everyone, my name is Tanisha. I'm the rising senior at Bronx Science, and I'm the co-founder of Project Mango. So we are a 501c3 organization dedicated to bringing educational equity to New York City. Right now we have 2 internship opportunities open. If you want to join us, you can do some educational research, or you can also join our Summer of Code, which is basically somewhere where you make your own personal project with other co-founder who can teach you coding. And you can also join our digital team with Gigi, who's right there. Yeah, thank you all. And I'll pass it on to the next person.
Hi everyone, my name is Tian Wu. I am the U.S. Office Lead of Asian Women Development Plan International, H.AAPI. So H.AAPI is a global nonprofit dedicated to eliminating domestic violence and gender-based violence discrimination against overseas Asian women, and we also wanted to help them advance their help advancing their empowerment and development. And our mission is to create a world of love and equity for women. So over the past 5 years, we have grown into a global network operating in over 30 countries and regions across North America, Europe, and Asian Pacific. We are all registered in different countries. Here in the United States, we're a 501c, and we have chapters in UK, Australia, Thailand, Belgium, etc. We have provided support through legal information, psychological support, language assistance, and referral systems, emergency relief. We help through these ways, and we have provided direct assistance to overseas Chinese women who are experiencing domestic violence. Beyond the direct support, we have developed over 31 international communities with more than 7,000 members. And we have built a network of volunteer base with more than 1,100 volunteers. And to me, these numbers are, because I am trying to encourage each of you to either start something small or to joining a startup. So to me, these numbers may sound amazing, but it actually started with someone who initially take a step and encourage others to join and follow the journey. And I think for students who are here, it is easy to actually to take a first step to be a part of something. You can start by coming to these kind of events. You can also do a volunteer here or somewhere else where the things that you're interested about, and or just to like research an issue and see what is the world is what is happening in the world. And yeah, so I think H.AAPI is part of this journey that I took. I am like full-time, I am an investment banker, but this journey has accompanied me for 5 years, and I am very fortunate to be here to share my experience, and hope some of you can also start a journey like this. Thank you.
All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us for this panel. I am the moderator today, Tina, and today we are having the conversation with like 5 leaders, young leaders from the community, and they see a need in their community and then they take action. So this conversation, especially for our audience today, like including high school students and college students, and we hope that you're not just hearing the inspiring story, but also can understand how your idea can become action. So as you listen, I encourage you to listen to like the small moments about like how they started and how they take the challenge, etc. And I will guide us through a few topics. And I also encourage all of you, just if you feel it's relevant to you, like feel free to jump in and share your story. So let's get started. So first of all, I would love to learn about like all of you. It's from for all the panelists about how you start your organization. So my thought, like, I want to know like what inspired you to start your organization, and what's the reason behind it, and why you feel it's important to do it. Why it's you, not like somebody else. So let's start with Tian Tian first. So we will move like this.
Okay. So H.AAPI started at the beginning of the pandemic, and at that time, many people are locked in their home, and that is when we also see that domestic violence in the number, it is decreasing. The number of people who report that they're experiencing domestic violence or gender-based violence is decreasing, but we found out that in real life, there are a lot of organizations that are doing research on it. It is actually a lot of people that did not report, but they are suffering a lot. And that leads us to ask the question, what does that mean? How come there is a gap between the data that we're seeing and the real life that people are actually experiencing? And I think that's the problem that we're trying to solve, to see what's beyond the data, that there are real people that are in need, and it is difficult for them. Like we want to try to understand why is the reason behind it, and then it is very difficult for survivors who are experiencing in that kind of situation, because pandemic actually make it worse. Like the existing barriers, but pandemic actually worsen the situation. It is harder for them to like make a private call, to leave their house, or to seek for help without being monitored. And that is what we're trying to solve, because we're not solving to solve the domestic violence itself. We're trying to build a comprehensive system that can support them to feel safe, to explain or describe to other people they're feeling, and then trying to build a system with culturally aware system that they feel safe and enough support for them to actually make the decision to leave. Because a lot of time people don't understand how difficult it is for overseas Asian women to actually step out, because there are just so many barriers, including like they may depend on family or partner for visa. They can have financial dependency on them, or like they're not aware of the existing legal system that are there to support them. So that is what A.AAPI is trying to solve. Is we're trying not only to help them understand that there is a system and there is a community for them, so that they're not alone, and then they feel comfortable to share their experience instead of being blamed for why you're not standing out. So that is how A.AAPI started. We really wanted to spread the awareness, like the advocacy conversations like this helps people understand this situation differently, because there are just so many myths around this topic, and a lot of times it's not getting enough awareness. And yeah, that is my answer to the question.
Thank you, Tian Tian. And Tanisha, what is your story about your why you started?
So at the surface, New York City seems like an area that is very full of opportunity. People come from all over the world to kind of invest in the city and to build themselves up from the very bottom. But for many students across the city, that's simply like not true. Although we have some of the best education in the city, the government spends around $40,000 per student each year. However, proficiency rates in many areas across the city can be as low as 15% in either math or reading and writing. So this is where Project Mango comes in. We strive to bring educational equity to the city by intervening directly in these communities that need the support that they can get. So we bring these free tutoring services to kind of help the students increase their proficiency rates and feel more confident in their academics.
Okay, how about Eric?
So for me, EcoBiz actually started from a school project. So way back in freshman year, like over 2 years ago, I was working on a biology project with my close friend Evelyn, and it was about like evaluating like environmental impact caused by like a certain like industry. And we stumbled upon like business, like the business industry in particular. And in our research, we found that business plays a huge role in like making like in a huge like environmental impact, climate change, all of that. Like business plays a huge role in that, and that kind of sparked the original idea of EcoBiz, because I personally knew a lot of students who were interested in business. I was at the time, Evelyn was as well, but we saw that there was a gap in between like sustainability and business. Sustainability isn't as emphasized in business as we believed it should have been. And so we kind of had a spontaneous idea of just starting a club. So EcoBiz actually started as a club at Stuyvesant. And we gathered a few friends who were interested in learning more about sustainable business. And then we started planning like lessons, slides. We had a few meetings in school. But then we kind of were going it like without like a specific plan. We were just having fun with it as well while learning ourselves. But then over time, we realized that in order to broaden the scope of like sustainable business education, we had to branch out of school. And so eventually we took it out of out of school and made it into a separate nonprofit organization. And so today it's a fiscally sponsored 501c3. And we had to pivot a lot in terms of how we are providing sustainable business education. So initially, like in school, we did like lesson slides, but we found that that wasn't as engaging. And so we changed to having monthly newsletters that included various different opportunities like internships, grants, available events for students to participate in, but then we also brought in speaker events. So we reached out to like professionals in like who are in like environmental, social, governance factors for investing, various different professionals who are in the sustainable business industry, and that we saw there was a huge increase in engagement. And over time, we grew, and I spent more and more time working on it, and I just fell in love with it. And yeah, so that's kind of my story for EcoBiz.
Thank you, Eric. And Huiting, please share your story.
Can you hear me? I actually didn't start the organization I'm part of or the club that I'm part of, but what got me involved was like seeing the gap between in my school and community. And with Green Team, I was like initially just want to make my school a little greener, but then I realized that even when like students care about sustainability, they weren't actually like always consistent or like structured ways to participate in environmental effort. That's why that pushed me to stay more active and also more engaged, starting encouraging other people and also take on more responsibility in the club and eventually leadership positions where I could organize more projects and also actually like ask more people to join into this environmental action. And also with like Glow, also realized how like throughout my time here, I realized how meaningful it is for me to able to use my skills and knowledge to help others. And yeah, it's not like just like that one big moment that make me like start or something. It's more like me noticing that gap that I see in my community that really pushed me to not being a bystander, but instead deciding to take a step into it and then start and then be involved with something and building that sense of community stronger.
And Dana?
So I started my career when I was 22, about 10 years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with nonprofit work. I started off working at 2 different museums, learned everything from the bottom up. I was cleaning the floor, I was doing bookkeeping, financing, tour guides, everything. And right around the pandemic, I started working at a larger nonprofit organization where I was thrown into grant work. And that's where I actually met Glow. I was exposed to so many different organizations there. And throughout my career, the one thing I always really wanted to learn more about was networking. I recognized early on that it was very underutilized, especially in our community. And I remember when I was first starting out as a fresh out of college 22-year-old thinking, I really wish I had the confidence to talk to people more, to get to know people more, because that's really how you get above in the world, is by making these connections. And when in the midst of the pandemic, I always told myself I really wanted to give back to my community. I just didn't know how. And in 2023, I thought, let's not wait until I'm on my deathbed and about to die and thinking, oh, I wish I could have done more with my life. So at that time, I decided, let's just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? So it turned into, this whole idea of I want to give back to my community, and networking is the one thing I'm truly passionate about. Even though I am not the best person at it, like I'm still learning about it every single day. I think it's one of those things where we're all continuously getting better at. And this organization turned into just that. I wanted to create something where everyone can come to our events and not feel like they need to be dressed to the nines in like professional suits to meet people. Because the type of networking events I attended throughout my career were a little bit stuffy, right? It was at bars, everybody was in suits, like skirts and all that. They were all super professional. We all had business cards. I wanted to change that a little bit. I wanted it to be a place where our events, were events where people like you and I, or you and like everyone here in this room can attend and not feel like, oh, I have to be like super professional. No, it's just I want you guys to have fun and be able to connect, because networking is ultimately when you meet someone. If you don't know someone and you get to know someone, that's essentially networking. So that's how my organization came to be.
Thank you. Yeah, networking is very important. That's why we have today's event for you to connect with us so we can help you to grow your idea. So, yeah, the common thing from all of you is like you notice a problem and then you think about how to address it and then choosing to act for to solve the problem. So now let's move to from the idea to your first step. And next question would be tailored towards to Tanisha, Eric, and Dana. So the question is, people often they have idea, but turning into idea into reality is the hardest part. I'd love to hear how you start your first step. So how did you go from your idea to actually starting something, and what was the very first thing you did? So let's hear from Tanisha first.
So I think for young people, it's something that feels very uncomfortable to kind of get that head start into manifesting your idea into reality. I think for me and my co-founder, it was really like difficult because we had all these ideas and we just didn't know like how to kind of take action. So what we did was basically just like branched out and like told everybody we knew about like our ideas and that it was something that we actually wanted to like do. So that kind of gave us the motivation to actually start and like make that first step and like building our Instagram pages. And then what we started doing was we reached out to other organizations and we kind of attended all of these events to get funding and to kind of get recognition within the community. And that kind of helped us, even though it was really uncomfortable, to establish our nonprofit and actually make change.
Eric?
Yeah, for me, I actually wanted to join an organization that would teach me more about sustainable business. And it was actually because I couldn't find one, which is why it initially sparked the idea of creating like a club, an organization with my friend. And I think one of the most important things that you can do with an idea is to just play around with it. I think talking to people like people close to you, people you trust, like whether it's parents, friends, teachers, whatever, talking to them about the idea, I think can really help in terms of shaping the foundation of what this could be. And I think it's really important to recognize that obviously like you won't have it all figured out at the beginning, or even like going like maybe like a year in. I still was, even now, like I'm still not sure like of some things of where I can like improve. But I think it's really important to just like take that idea and run with it. Like take that step. Don't be afraid to ask for help. And really like the single biggest lesson that I learned like literally running EcoBiz is to never be afraid to ask like for something or for help. You'll be really shocked by how many people will actually want to help you. And in some cases, you will face rejection, and that's just like life. I mean, like cold emailing, cold messaging, sometimes it will land with rejection. But if you have that idea and you have that spark in you, like please don't give up. It is incredibly worth it. And yeah, like just take that next step. Be brave, take that risk, talk to people about it.
And Dana?
To echo a little bit about what Eric says, we're not going to have it figured out. I think for me, one of the first two people that joined my organization was actually my former boss, and who was the financial controller and the CFO of my former workplace. And when I ran this idea by them, they were always behind me 100%. I had to do a lot of research and networking on my own. The first president of my board, it took me about a year and a half for me to convince her to join the board, to actually flush out the idea with her, what would make it, sustainable, what would make it work. And it was just a lot of talking. It was a lot of me nights like Googling, making Word docs, making this whole plan of how it would work out. And it's also like what many of you have also said, it's to ask people when you need help. That is one of my worst traits, is I don't ask people when I need help. And I've gotten a lot of flack from every single one of my team members saying, you need to ask people when you need help. And so that was pretty much it. Just, running the idea across people, talking to people, doing a lot of research, and then not being afraid to say, can you help me on something?
Yeah, it's very important to ask for help, especially at the very beginning of the stage. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And the next question is, what was the hardest part and how you kept going? And this question would be for Tian Tian and Dana. So every project will run into challenges, and I'd love to hear from you about like the challenging part of the journey, and what has been the hardest moment you have faced, and was there like a time that you ever think about like stopping, and what kept you going? So Tian Tian, can we hear from you first?
So I think working in nonprofits is hard. Working topics like domestic violence and gender-based violence is also always very difficult and hard. I think for me, domestic violence is just a very universal issue, but it's also so niche that it's very difficult to actually find what is the real cause because it could be a lot of reasons, a combination of reasons, and it could be your passport was taken. You don't have a legal status, or it could be you don't know what is the law system in your state, and you don't even know how to speak the language, or you speak broken language that people don't understand. So it is just but at the same time, it is very universal and common because it happens across cultures, across countries and background. And it's, like I said, it's very complicated. It's never really obvious to other people, and it's very difficult to explain why someone choose to be isolated, to be so fearful, or to not seek help. So it is definitely very difficult, a lifelong journey to like spread awareness and try to make people to be open to talk about the issue or to make up the mind to decide to do something about it. What kept me going is actually like to have a community that understand and support each other. I think that's how some survivors, they start with going to these kind of sessions, and then they ask some questions, and then they think about it. They may not decide to seek help at first, but they may decide in the future that they would do it. And these cases are where I feel that the work that I do is very meaningful. There is a myth that people blame survivors to not fight for themselves. But we think that it is actually a better approach to like create a safe place for them to talk about the issue, and for them to like give them the information and options that they can do and respect their timing. So that is I think how H.AAPI is trying to deal with these difficulties, and this community has kept me going for 5 years. I hope I can work on this issue more with more like-minded people, and I hope the vision of having a world without domestic violence or gender-based violence actually come through.
Thank you, Tian Tian. Very emotional speech. And next, Dana, yeah, can you share about your challenges?
I think my challenges, well, I have a few, but on the top of my head, the first one is learning how to be a leader and not an employee, switching the mindset from being, oh, I'm not just following what someone else is telling me to do. I'm actually one making the strategic decisions. I'm the one leading the team, and also setting boundaries. I think very early on, when I started in the nonprofit world, when you're an employee, you do what you're told, and you are like the jack of all trades. You're wearing 50 million hats. Like I said in the beginning, I was cleaning floors, I was teaching, I was also doing the bookkeeping. That's not really any particular job description. It just became mine. And so, I had to learn how to talk to people in a way where it didn't undermine my decision, but also it was nice. It was learning that, I needed to set boundaries, so I wasn't sending emails at 3 a.m. in the morning, being able to separate my personal life from my professional life, because I was burnt out all the time. Up until a few months ago, I was burnt out. And then what kept me going is sincerely my team. And I have one member of my team here, Trinace, and she's my director of HR. A year ago, I was the only one doing anything. I was the only person technically on the team, and now we have 10 people on the team. We're all from different backgrounds. I have someone who's in finances, real estate. I have someone, who's been in HR for 20 years. So it's really relying on my team and also building that team to make sure that I'm not the only one doing the work and that they will always be behind me no matter what and support me.
Thank you both for sharing your challenges so openly. It's always hard to talk about this. Yeah, the next part would be how this changed you, because sometimes the biggest impact that is not only on the community, it's also on you, like the people who founded or also people who being part of the organization. So I want to hear from Tanisha and Huiting about your thoughts about how has leading your organization or being part of it has changed who you are today, and what have you learned about yourself through this journey? Yeah, Tanisha first.
So my whole life, I've always struggled with social anxiety. So being in these kind of positions is really uncomfortable for me. But being able to lead an organization has kind of given me that confidence to talk openly about my experiences and kind of be on these platforms. So in terms of how I've changed as a person, I think I've learned to be a lot more comfortable with being uncomfortable and just being able to really express myself and just taking on these roles of leadership. And yeah.
Thank you, and Huiting.
For me, I feel like being involved with my green team and also for Glow. Like for green team, I joined because I care about sustainability, and for Glow, it's just because of my mentor's influence of giving back to my community. Also, wanted to do something after my freshman year of high school. And I feel like I just learned that I don't have to be the loudest person in the room. Like leadership is not just all about that, or it's just a title where you just flex on your resume. It's more about you being dependable and also taking initiative, or being a facilitator role that actually work with your team towards a common goal. And I feel like that's what I learned. And also leadership is not just taking dictating their certain answer, is also taking into consideration of your teammates' opinion, and also make sure the team is happy with what they're doing.
Does anyone else want to share what have you changed and what have you learned? Tian Tian, yes. Pass the mic.
Pointing to Eric.
Oh.
I'll just quickly add, I think my experience at H.AAPI has taught me to be a more sympathetic person and never to really make assumptions about someone. Based on what I was just talking about, there are just so many issues that can be going on the backside of what you see on the front. So I have learned to always stay humble and try to be more understanding and to be more patient, because I feel that's how you can empower people, is to be empathetic, not to be judgment. Because when people feel that you may judge them, they be protective, they pretend everything is okay, but that could lead to them not standing up for themselves, not trying to help themselves.
Yeah. And Eric?
I think I'm going to echo a little bit off of Tanisha and Huiting. So I think I was more introverted back in freshman year. But I think running EcoBiz, I've had to talk to like a bunch of different people from different backgrounds, and it really taught me like to step outside of my comfort zone and then lean into that uncomfort. And in that, I think I found how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And another big thing is that try to be like always want to learn more. So like again, like I think listening to your team members, listening to your friends, anyone who can provide you guidance and advice is really, really important. Because you obviously you won't have it all figured out in the beginning. You're going to need guidance, and it's always really, really valuable to have a different perspective help you out. And that is also key to building a strong team, a strong network, and ultimately a community. And you know, being sympathetic, empathetic to people from different backgrounds, with different experiences, it really helps give you like a better sense of just how to navigate like building like your own organization, but then also like how to be like a person like in society as well. I think yeah, that's what I've learned through EcoBiz.
And Dana, do you have anything to share? Yes. Like, what have you changed and what have you learned? Yeah.
Changed. I'm 100% an introvert through and through. When I am out and about and not me in a professional sense, I'm like, go away, don't talk to me, don't look at me. But whenever I do anything related to my organization, and as I've kind of grown in my career, I've kind of switched it to, there's a certain mentality that comes with meeting new people. And like Eric says, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Life is all about, uncomfortableness, I guess. So just getting out there, I'm still an introvert, but I am trying to lean towards being an extrovert more and more.
So we can all see like the leadership is not something you are born with, like it's something you can grow into. Yeah, thank you for sharing. And our next question is building something that will last, because some of you are still in high school, and sometimes when you graduate, the organization may not last. So I want to hear from Huiting and Eric. So how do you keep it ongoing, like to last longer? Like how do you keep your organization active and also keep the people engaged? And what's your hope for the future of your organization? So let's hear from Eric first.
So this is a question that I think about really, really often whenever I'm working on EcoBiz. I think first for engagement, again, it's listening to what people you are like trying to help or like trying to have involved in. Like listen to their like feedback and opinions. I think that's really, really important in maintaining like a strong network and community. So again, like when I started off EcoBiz as a club in school, and we soon realized that having like usual lessons as our club meetings wasn't gonna cut it. People became not as interested pretty quickly, and so we knew we had to pivot. So that's another thing. If you like to have like your members and community engage, you need to be comfortable making changes, like embracing changes, and ultimately through like trial and error and listening to what like your members want and your community wants, you'll be able to build a much more engaged community. And so we ended up, we started off as a really small group of like 10 students. And then the club grew into 40 before we left school and we made it into like a separate detached organization. And yeah, listening to feedback consistently has now allowed us to grow to over 300 members. And another thing I think that helps with engagement is having in-person events. So EcoBiz, I mentioned before, is like more of a virtual, like we share opportunities and it's not, it's more asynchronous, like it's not as in-person like focused. But recently I've been really trying to build a more in-person component, because what I realized is that when you're face to face with someone, like for example, talking to you guys, like it builds a much stronger connection, and that's also something I've heard from a lot of my members, and so that's something we've been working on, like having more in-person events, and then about ultimately when you have a more engaged community, you will build something that will last longer. So in EcoBiz, I've had to change like team structures a lot. And so how it is right now is that all members can like be engaged with our events, how like the initiatives that we do. And then we have directors if they want to have like a more specialized role or put in more commitment, they can apply to be a director. And ultimately, like directors will also train members as well. And so it's kind of this learning and growth stage throughout time. And I've never thought about like when I would stop running EcoBiz. Like I love doing it so much, and I've only put in more time as like the organization grew. But I'm really, really optimistic. Like lean into like your members, your friends. I think having a community is really and really important to building an organization that lasts. Yeah.
Thank you, Eric and Huiting.
I feel like what keeps people engaged is like the genuine joy that people find in themselves. Like for me, I used to be like a very like introvert. Like I would not talk to anyone. Like just like and I feel like finding the things that I enjoy like really helps me a lot, and I also believe in the power of hands-on experience. For a green team, we go to like a nearby farm and then we actually dig our hands into the soil, and then I feel like that sense of feeling and the feeling sense that you get is like not something that you will get from other thing, and then it's something that you will come back for. And I also feel like in terms of like engagement, it's also about the people around you. You will want to find yourself within the community, but I feel like if you're trying to find one but you can't find one, so why not be the one that creates that environment? So I would encourage all of you, even if you don't find yourself in a certain environment, but be the one that creates that environment for others.
Thank you. Does anyone want to add more comments about how to keep your members engaged?
I think, as Eric said, it's something that's always been in the back of my mind, kind of making something that lasts and having people stay engaged as time goes on. So I think constantly like talking to your members and constantly like engaging with the community around you is like a great way to keep on building your network and keep on like maintaining those connections that you have is a great way to keep your initiative or like organization going.
Okay, so let's move to our last question, which is to give advice. So I want to leave some practical advice to our audience. So can every one of you to share, like, just imagine, like, if you are speaking directly to your high school self, what would you say to yourself? And then what advice would you give to the audience today that's practical so they can take action, like, because some of them here, they have idea but don't know how to start. So what would you talk to yourself and what advice would you give to the audience today? So can we start with Tian Tian first?
Okay, thank you. So I think my advice for my high school self is to maybe explore more things. I feel it's kind of cliche, but it's very particular true for my situation because I was solely focusing on good grades and getting into a college. I did my undergrad in China, so that's where that's the sole way for you to really succeed if you're born in a irregular background. But I think with AI and like social media now, it's probably a little bit different. But my time, it was still like you need to get grades, get into a good school, and that's how you succeed. But like looking back now, I do agree that it is very important that you build a fundamental to learn things. That I think that's a skill to learn to have a critical thinking. But then it is also very important to explore things and meet new people. That's the thing that you will like that's a very important skill when you go to college, when you like go to work. I apply networking skills. I like try to meet new people to develop new interests, to meet new people. So it is just very important things that I think it is good advice for myself to actually start that self-discovery process earlier because it's like a lifelong journey that I didn't know I would be going through, and it was very hard for me to like adapt from being a sole student to an adult, like full-fledged adult.
And what advice would you give to the audience?
Oh yeah, sorry, totally forgot about that. So I think I probably have two advice for the audience. The first one is to have a community that you feel a sense of belonging to. It could be here. If many of you even walked here, we're very close. Take a bus here. It is where when like maybe when you go into adulthood, it is very difficult to find friends and very difficult to meet someone with shared interest. So I think it is very important for you to actually have a sense of belonging that you, except for your family, your lifelong friends, you also want to have a space where you meet new people with shared mindset and interest. I think that is very important. And the second thing is to take breaks. It is okay to take breaks. I feel life in university is always so busy and people are trying to find things to do. But it could get intense and stressful, but you're too afraid to take breaks. That happens to me and it happened to my friends too. I think you should always have a piece of your mind that tells yourself that it's okay to take breaks, and you can always come back to things that you like and communities that you support. It is because you want to not you won't feel pressure to, because if that is something that you like and then you have faith in, you just will go back. So it is okay to also take breaks. That's all of mine.
Thank you, Tian Tian. And Tanisha?
I think as a high schooler, like when I first got into high school, I was always worried about what people around me would think. So I didn't really start doing anything very meaningful because I was just worried about other people's perceptions of what I would be doing. And if I were to go back, I'd tell myself to just start, because if you hold on to that idea that nobody's going to be approving of your ideas and you were never going to begin it in the first place. So advice that I'd give to everyone is to just kind of get your foot in the door. I think it's like very general advice because I think it's like something that a lot of people say, but it's like the most true thing, I guess, because if you're always focused on what somebody around you is going to think, you're just never going to start. And it's advice that I've been giving to like a lot of my lower classmen whenever they come up to talk to me. So yeah, just don't be afraid of starting, don't hesitate. Start networking with people and connecting with people that have the similar ideas to you, and just don't worry about other people.
Thank you. And Eric?
I was actually gonna say like basically the same thing. I had a really similar experience, and I know a lot of my friends and my peers also do. I would tell definitely like my freshman year self, like to don't be afraid of what other people are gonna think of you, and ultimately yes, people are gonna judge, but if you think about it, like when's like your people are not going to think of you for like even if it's in a negative, like quote unquote negative way, they're gonna move on really quickly, and it doesn't affect like your life like directly. And so like really like don't be afraid to do what you really want to do. Like if you're genuinely passionate about an issue or anything, like run with it. Like it's like I think like a fear of judgment is definitely a big struggle, and even now like I think that I still have to constantly remind myself that like to not be afraid of what other people might say or think about myself, but it definitely is something that you can practice, and I think the more that you can embrace just like uncertainty and just like being yourself, not like taking to like not caring about the judgment of other people, I think it will ultimately make you like a better like leader, and then also like it will push you to actually do things like do the things that you really enjoy. I think that's 100% worth it. And in terms of general like advice I would love to share with you guys, I think I have a lot, but I think one of the most important lessons, which I mentioned before in a question, but I want to touch upon it again because it's just really, really important. It's gotten me, it's taught me a lot, is that opportunities are genuinely like all around you. You have to just like be active in searching for them. So what I mean by this in particular is like, don't be afraid to ask. Genuinely, like I will give you one example in EcoBiz, which I mentioned sometime brief ago that I'm going to be at the UN for the high level political forum this year, and so there will be like diplomats, like world leaders there, NGO like presidents, all of that, and the whole reason I got this incredible opportunity, and where I'll also be like sharing like youth voices and youth perspectives on sustainable business, is literally because I reached out to a person on LinkedIn, and I got it, and I had a nice coffee chat with them, and I was interested in what they were doing, and they were interested in what I was doing with EcoBiz, and over the course of time, like it just became like this huge opportunity, and so never be afraid to ask for something. Opportunities are genuinely all around you. Don't be afraid to take that next step because worst case scenario, they'll say no, but you move on. Like, you know, like sure, like no, move on. But best case scenario is that they say yes and you actually make something incredibly meaningful out of it. And so I feel like if you put it that way, like it is incredibly worth it to ask for anything basically.
Thank you, Eric and Huiting.
Kind of echoing what Eric was saying, like just simply say yes to like one opportunity or like one event. That will like lead you very far. And also, just remember, it would be really selfish not to like hide your, not to show who you are to others and hide your own personalities because you are the treasure yourself.
And last but not least, Dana.
The one piece of advice I would give to my 18-year-old self is don't underestimate yourself. I definitely underestimated myself a lot when I was younger, and it wasn't until I got a little bit older that I realized, no, I'm pretty cool. I could do it. And one piece of advice is Rome wasn't built in a day. So what you're doing now, no matter how small your idea is, you know, remember that you have the foundation. The fact that you have the idea and you're willing to put it into practice or into play, you're already 90% of the way there. The rest of it is just, you know, time and luck. You know, life is honestly a lot of it is about luck. And as you grow, you know, your ideas will evolve, your programs will evolve. The people who are involved will also grow with you. And as humans, as we grow, our perspectives will change. And that will mean that hopefully 90% of the time, it will get better. So just remember that Rome wasn't built in a day. And then no matter how small your idea is, it will become better as time goes on, as long as you keep working on it.
Thank you for sharing all this useful advice. Now we have time for the Q&A from the audience. So let's hear from the audience. And we're gonna give a mic to the audience.
So we have two channels. You can scan the QR code if you're shy, that you're feeling shy, you just want to type through the QR code and you can submit your question, or you can raise your hand. I'll pass the microphone to you.
Hello, I have a question for Chen. So a little bit about myself. I spend a lot of time inside my room from my computer, not doing much in particular. So my question for you is that I may not be a woman, and I may not share your level of passion for stopping domestic violence, but I do want to do more of my life that has a positive impact. So would you say that would be enough to help out at your organization?
Yeah, I think depends on what kind of your expertise about on computer side on your computer. There are definitely a lot of improvements that we can make for our organization's work, especially in areas like computer science, AI. We were trying to build like AI chatbots to just streamline. No, not like streamline. Like people who, like survivors who need help, can just chat directly through them. That can erase some of the inefficiencies with like trying to connect the case with human contact. Like you will just explain your situation, and then the AI can just go through your case and then provide preliminary steps that you can take, which can be very helpful instead of waiting several days for a human to get connected to you. I think we can definitely discuss ways to, if you want to help with our organization's work, that what are the specifics that can be done.
So when I heard you guys talk about your motivation behind how you started your organizations or how you joined your organizations, a lot of you guys said you loved what you did. And so I wanted to ask, where does love come from? You describe it as a fuel behind your actions, but where did you find that, or where did it appear, and what are some common circumstances or occurrences that cause it to show up?
Who wants to answer this question? What's the love behind it?
I honestly just knew from the very beginning. I've always loved it. I remember when I was in junior high, one of the reasons why I chose the high school that I did was because it offered community service that in order to graduate, you had to do 200 hours. And that was the only reason I even joined that school. So I do from the very beginning. I always loved giving back, but it was more like putting a name to it. It wasn't until I was in like my mid-20s where I realized, oh, there was an actual industry where I can also give back to my community. But for me, it was definitely something that I just kind of recognized very early on in my life.
And Eric?
Wait, okay. I just thought of it, and I think to address your question, like, think of something that you do, like maybe often or maybe not, but something that you do that you would simply just lose track of time doing. Or like, if you guys have heard of flow state, like if you guys have been like doing literally, it could be a hobby, it could literally be anything, where you just simply lose track of time because you're so invested in it and you're just so interested in it. And I think that's, if you ask yourself that question, I think you will start to kind of notice where like you are, like where like you would find like something that you are genuinely passionate about and what you would like love. And I think from that, like tying like together like where you identify like those like times or like pieces, like what brings you to that flow state that brings like, you know, that you find it like just so amazing that you're just so invested in it. If you can find that, I think you'll be able to, like, if your ideas like related to it, I think you'll be able to like really go with it. Like, and it will be sustainable because it's self-driven. It's intrinsically in you because you're just so invested in it. And I think that's where it would come from.
Totally agree.
So you guys lead some pretty large, I'd say large organizations, right? And how would you deal with internal disputes, like disagreements between leadership higher up? Because those kinds of things can make or break an organization. So how would you deal with that?
Anyone wants to answer this? How would you deal with this disagreement with the group?
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I actually had a disagreement with someone on my leadership team about a year and a half ago. And it was to remember that it's not personal. This is all business. At the end of the day, you are a nonprofit organization. Well, you know, but you're still a business, and it's nothing personal. But just to remember that the decision that you're making is not in the best interest of whoever the person is. It's about the entire organization. Because, for example, if you are the CEO, president, or executive director, your main responsibility is to make sure that the organization not only survives, but is also following the path of whatever mission or vision or goal that you're trying to go towards. So for me, I had to remember that, okay, this is 100% all business. This is not about a dispute between you and I. It's business.
Okay, thank you, our audience, for asking this question, and thank you, our panelists, for answering it. So I want to conclude today's panel. If there's one question I want everyone to take away from today is like, as you hear from all the panelists today, so every organization, they are started with like one person, like our founders, they notice there's a problem and then they take action to address it. And they learned along the way, and they found collaborator, their teammates, and adapted when things didn't go well, and then they kept going. So if everyone here today, if you have idea, don't wait, because if you wait too long, you may be waiting forever. So let's just start with one conversation, one idea, one teammate, one event, or just like one small steps. And then you never know what it would take you to. So thank you again for our panelists and our audience today. And we hope this conversation can inspire you to grow into something meaningful. And if you want to connect with our panelists, we have a networking session, so feel free to stay and network with us. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.